Well, I've passed the first test because I've managed to switch the microphone on, which is a major achievement for me. I also didn't realise so many people would actually be interested in coming and listening to what I have to say on UAT as well. So if you excuse me, I'm going to take my glasses off so I can't see you. Nothing like a bit of fear to get you going. By way of introduction, I'd like to say this is fairly typical of UAT. I'm the last thing on the agenda. I'm in the way between you guys going and having a drink as well, which is probably more important. And, well, not quite right, but if it was proper UAT, I'd only have half the slides delivered. Okay, and that's the bane of our life in UAT. As per the introduction, yeah, my name's Steve Portch. I'm a consultant with TSG, and I'll do a bit of advertising. We're a small company in London, and we concentrate on high-end consulting. So I go out and tell people how to do testing, which is why I'm here today. We also do some delivery, and we also do training as well. And one of the challenges I faced with this particular presentation is I'm trying to condense what I usually tell people in 2 days into 40 minutes, okay? Those who know me will know that I usually can't stop talking inside 40 minutes, let alone actually get through a whole presentation. I could talk for England and carry on doing it for a long time. However, today we are going to have a very limited session. So let's start with thinking about what is UAT. And what we'll do is start by looking at something that we might want to test. Okay? Just in case you're wondering, it's not my car. Okay? It's my wife's car. Okay, and if anyone wants to come up and talk to me after the session, I'll tell you the whole sorry story of how I went out to buy her a nice 4-door saloon and came back with that one. So, what I'd ask, and I use this a lot in my presentations, because it's important to think about UAT in a different context to how we normally look at testing. So if I could just ask someone, if I gave you that car, which I can't because my wife would kill me, but if I gave you the car, what was the first thing you'd think of testing?
Brakes.
Yeah, brakes. Anyone else? Yeah? Okay. Absolutely. Okay, and that's all good and proper thinking of testing. I don't like to say this, but from a UAT perspective, it's not quite right. Okay? While it matters to a certain degree, okay, the fact that this car will allegedly do 155 miles an hour, that's great, okay? Do I need to test that? Maybe not. Okay? Well, firstly, in England, if I got it up to 155 miles an hour, I wouldn't be driving again for about 3 years. But what we need to think about from a UAT perspective is slightly different to how fast it will go. What we need to do is to think about why do we want the car, okay? Because that's actually how we're going to get through and work out what testing we need to do. Now, to be honest, just as I said that, I thought, I can't think of why my wife, what need she had for that particular car, okay? Because she goes down the shops, okay? And occasionally she goes to work. No, sorry, that didn't sound quite right. What I meant is occasionally she needs to drive the car to work, okay? She does need to work, trust me, because we've got a huge, great mortgage that we need to pay. But the need for the car is the need to be able to drive to work. It's the need to be able to go to the shops. It's the need to be able to go on holiday. And there's all manner of things that you'd want to do about that. There's also a negative need about it as well, but she didn't think about it at the time. But we subsequently found out that my golf clubs won't fit in the boot. So I can't take it to the golf club. Now, to me, that doesn't fit my needs, but obviously she'll say, oh, no, that's fine, that's exactly how I intended it to be. Okay, so I talked about it there about how we would look at, or we need to look at testing slightly differently. And what I'm going to do in this session is we're going to do it in sort of 3 bits loosely. And as I was chatting with the gentleman organising the session earlier, these things tend to be a bit random when I'm speaking because it usually comes out the way I'm thinking about it, probably not what's on the slides, so bear with me with that one. There's lots of things talked about UAT, and I think if you did a Google search, you find all sorts of definitions, and I picked a couple to look at, which I'll let you read for a second or two rather than you talk through. Okay, so there's one. Okay, and this is what I think. Okay, now this is not published on the internet yet. It might be later on. I think it's that simple. What we are trying to do in UAT is establish whether we can run our business on the system. Okay, so therefore it's fit for purpose. Now, we could do that by testing from the requirements, if you remember the previous slide, but I don't think the requirements actually are very helpful, because if you think about it, the requirements tend to be fairly detailed. Okay, so me getting my users to come along and test against the requirements isn't particularly helpful. It doesn't necessarily say they're able to do the task. Okay. Now, if you think about, I use Amazon a lot, and if you think about buying something on Amazon, okay, are we interested, particularly as a user of the system, that the system actually returns every single item available for sale when we do a search? Well, as a user, how would we know? Okay, we don't. It pulls up, if I'm buying something like this, it pulls up 4 or 5 alternatives of this. I don't know whether they sell 10 or not. So the point is, what we've done by testing that particular search is we've given me, the customer, the opportunity to buy something from my site. Okay? It might not be perfect, it might not line up, but fundamentally, that's what we're there to do. When we get to UAT, it tends to be a bit too late to change anything. Okay? So what we have to do is work with what we've got. As it says here, UAT is always a correlation of testing. My typical consulting engagement will be a phone call. Steve, can you come and help us? Yeah, okay. When do you want me to start? Last week would be good. Okay, so I go along the next day, because I'm good like that, and they say, it's being delivered on Monday. We need you to sort out UAT for us. You what? Monday? When did you know about this? Oh, well, we ordered it in January. Okay, what I would say at this point is, one of these little stories, every single one of them is true, and every single one has happened to me. Okay, quite literally, we've engaged you now because we couldn't get funding. Oh, well, do I look like I can do miracles? Okay, well, no, but actually I can do a pretty decent impression of it, given the chance. Why do we do UAT? Well, usually it ends up with a sign-off. Okay, someone wants to be convinced that the system is working, that it's good to go live. Now, one of the other sessions I went to this morning, someone said, well, sign-off's a bit pointless. You shouldn't ask the test team to sign things off, and I absolutely agree that. The sign-off basically needs to be with the sponsor of the project, and these are the people that should engage UAT. But it's no good hoiking me in at the last second and saying we need to do some testing. We do need to plan it properly, and we do need to give it Importance. It is important. Lots of people think of it as it's not as important as actually developing the stuff. No, actually it is very, very important, because you can find lots of situations where if something's being developed ineffectively, it can end up costing you an awful lot more money, even though it actually works functionally. Again, a bit like I said with the car, functionally it will go 155 miles an hour, but it's no good if I've just lost my licence. Okay, so I said we talk about what UAT is not as well, and these are some little stories. So I thought a bit of light entertainment for the end of the day. This really happened. The vendor project manager sat across the table from me and said, I'm the test manager, he said, you've got a week to run these tests, and then I want you to sign it off. Hey? So I'm going to run your tests and sign it off without actually asking my users whether they can actually do their job on it. I don't think so. But I would say I can have some sympathy with the vendor, because a lot of organisations, as I just said, engage me at the last second. Now imagine that you're selling a software package and you've got a customer, you want them to sign it off because you get paid. Okay? If they don't know how to test, they could take forever doing it. So I have a bit of sympathy, but not a lot. I think the developing team, the supplier, should have actually done something a little more appropriate, should we say. This is another common one. This one actually came from the same test, the same people. Well, run our system tests. Why? So I can demonstrate that your test worked. Okay, it's still not helping me. And if you think about how a system test works, it's not looking to see what happens end to end through a process. It doesn't, you're looking at, yeah, I can add a customer. Okay, great. Can I add a customer and then sell them an insurance policy? Oh, we didn't think of that. So often the case. And it's so often the case that these things don't work either. This is a classic from no more than a month ago. I heard this and I just could not believe it. So you, the supplier of some software, are telling me I'm going to have to pay to fix bugs that you put in a system in the first place. Really? Or, as our American colleagues would say, please? What do you take us for? This is absolutely and totally mad. Now, again, I have admiration for the guy who wrote the contract and got it signed, because boy, oh boy, I wish I could do that. But somewhere along the line, a little bit of honesty in me says, actually, that's not right. Okay? I can understand it again if they said it was change requests or something, but really? Oh, sorry. Again? These are, you can imagine that I'm stood there when someone says that. You what? You can't do that. It's just not, it's not right. It's, what we're trying to do here when we do UAT is we're trying to get everything stable. We know what it is. Now we're going to check with our users and make sure it all works. What we don't want is someone underneath changing things or adding things. But, go back to, if you think about the car for a second, there are lots of development teams and suppliers who will say, yeah, Steve, it's all right, you can take it away now. Okay, we'll put the other wheel on next week. Right? Again, no, I think I'd rather have all the wheels before I start, please. So when people ask you to accept software that's incomplete into test, okay, think about the car. Would I take it with only 3 wheels? Okay. Would I take it with no brakes? Okay. To be honest, I've been delivered systems which, if you take the car analogy, it's got 2 wheels, no brakes, only two of the cylinders in the engine are working, there's no driving seat, and the steering wheel is bolted on backwards. Okay, and you want me to test this and sign it off. Well, sorry, if I was going to sign it off. In that case, we should have waited for the next release. It's actually far better and far quicker, but it takes an awful lot of courage. I think there's a word used earlier on as well. It takes courage for a project team to say, no, that's it. We're not doing any more. We're going to stabilise what we've got. Anything else will come in the next release, because there's all sorts of business pressures going on. Again, this was from one of my first jobs. Oh, testing's only contingency. If development overruns, you're going to have less time to test. Oh, right, okay. Okay then, Mr. Project Manager, are you happy that out of all these tests I was going to run, I'm only going to run these 3, because that's all the time I've got? No, I want you to run them all. No, you're not listening. And apologies if there's any project managers about. But I was going to say earlier on, don't worry, I insult everyone eventually in this presentation. Project managers are very fond of this. It's all right, Steve, you can do it. I know you can do it. So yeah, I can run 1,000 tests that are going to take me 6 weeks in an afternoon. Well, if I could, okay, I'd charge you an awful lot more. Another classic from a development manager, and he won't like me to do this, actually he's a friend of mine. He has a slightly weird view of doing things. Now imagine, again, go back to our car, okay? So you're out and you're going on holiday, okay? And because you've got a nice little sporty car with a nice fold-down roof, you're going to drive it from here to the south of France. Okay, yeah, everyone happy? Now, do you want to do that with someone underneath the hood fiddling with the engine? Okay, or fiddling with the brakes might be even worse. No, it's not time to start prattling around with the code, excuse my language. Okay, fix it, next release. Okay, don't do it while I'm trying to test it. This was from a tester I interviewed. And yeah, again, I think it's a good idea to do that, but not in UAT. Okay? UAT isn't about finding defects. It's actually about making sure that things work. Okay? If we find the defects, great, because that's stopping us from achieving an objective. So if we go back to Amazon as an example, if I can't register myself as a customer, I can't buy anything. Okay, right, must fix that. Okay, if I can only put 29 characters in the first line of the address instead of 30, does it matter? Not really. It might not meet the requirements, but it's not stopping me buying something. So if you were Amazon's business manager, you say, yeah, all right, we'll fix it sometime. Okay, but if he hears that I can't buy anything because I can't register, that's a whole new game. And now we're starting to get to what UAT is about. Users are also their own worst enemies sometimes, because they look at UAT as, right, we get to see it. Well, I don't like the way that looks, or I don't like the way that works. And I don't think it's on this presentation, but there's a classic one. Oh, well, I know it's what I asked for, but it's not what I want. Guys, it's just a tad late now. Okay, you think when we're hitting UAT, we're less than a couple of months away from go live. Okay, again, if I won't let the developers play around with it to fix stuff that they want to fix, I'm not going to let you change the design. Okay. Now, yeah, okay, so there could be occasions where you have to because someone's dropped a complete brick, and yeah, I didn't realise we couldn't ship stuff to a different address than the one that we've got on file. okay, which is a key customer requirement, right, yeah, we probably best do something about that. And quite rightly so. But the whole idea of UAT is we're not trying to change stuff, we're not trying to make it better, we're trying to make sure we can do what we need to do with it. A very good example of this, working on a very big project. We're just about to put in a 400-person contact centre selling general insurance. It was actually probably on a Friday afternoon like this. We were having a project meeting and the development team came up and said, we've got a real problem. We cannot get the credit card payment system to work properly. Now, okay, throw it over to the floor. Do we carry on towards go live or not? Okay, all my testing bone says no, we can't do that. That's all wrong. No, we need that functionality. The business manager said, after a few minutes thinking, no, it's all right, we're going. Oh, right. I asked him why. He said, the project's currently costing me £100,000 a week to run. Okay, I've just calculated if I don't collect credit card payments for a fortnight, and you guys are going to fix it in a fortnight, okay, I'll only lose £20,000. So it's a pure financial trade-off. And almost from that moment stemmed my thinking of how UAT should work. And what it is, it's about, I'm there to provide information to the business manager so he can make a decision. It's not my decision to make, it's not my sign-off, okay, because I don't know. You know, I'm a tester. I'm not an expert in general insurance. I'm not an expert in any of the other business areas I work in. Okay, so as UAT people, our job is to help the business managers make a decision. So, as we said, UAT is about confirming it's fit for purpose to the business stakeholders. And basically, and I'm giving away the crown jewels of UAT testing here. Basically, all we do is simulate what the business do. It's as simple as that. Okay? Now, you could all go away, well, I hope you could all go away from when we had our chat here, and you could go away and write the business tests that you would need to do to test customer purchasing on Amazon. Okay? Because it's straightforward, you just do the process. What I want to do is I'll go and search for something, I'll find it, I'll buy it. That's it. It's not hard. And I think sometimes we do try and make it a bit hard. If you get engaged in UAT, have a think about this. Any given piece of business functionality will take somewhere, business process, should I say, will take you between 10 and 20 tests to test thoroughly. Okay? And it's beyond the scope of this particular presentation, but it's quite easy to demonstrate when you look at Amazon and try and buy something. When you look at the options available to you, you can buy one thing or you could buy many. Okay? Don't worry about whether it's 2 or 23. Okay? You can buy multiple of the same thing or just one item. Everything else up to payment is okay. When you come to pay for it, you've got a choice of credit card, debit card, PayPal, you can think of the rest. If you actually go through and then map those out and say, what do I need to test? It comes out, I think we did it in exercise yesterday, at around 13 tests. Okay, so that's it, that's all you need to do. We don't need to worry about the detail. You think about, well, we'll check the address, right? Addresses vary. Everyone in this room will have a different address. Do we test all of them? No, all we need to do is test one. If we happen to be doing 11 tests, why not test 11 different ones? But it is actually that straightforward. Okay. There's some bits and pieces around UAT as well that we might want to consider, and I put here effectively and efficiently. What we can do, we can get feedback from the users on how usable the system is. So we get a bit of free usability testing. We can also get some indication of performance by saying, guys, tell us if it's a bit slow coming back. None of this is particularly precise, but a business user, imagine someone working in an office environment and they're processing documents coming in with applications. They'll tell you very quickly if it takes longer than it used to. Okay, because that will matter. Okay? It doesn't matter whether it's, it took 3 minutes instead of 2.5. It matters an awful lot if it takes 5 minutes instead of 2. And you don't need to be particularly accurate with it. So, perhaps the more interesting one. How do we do UAT properly? And I've been slightly provocative with the title here, in that I have to say, I've been in UAT for 20 odd years now. Okay, I still don't think I know how to do it properly. I think it's always evolving and there's always ways you can do it better. And I'd be pretty, not much of a tester if I didn't think I could do it better next time around. Okay, and we find ways of improving things. So what I'm going to do here is I'm not going to tell you how to do UAT, I'm going to give you a set of pointers and things to think about. And the first one is, let's not do UAT testing from requirements. Okay, let's do UAT testing from a user need. Okay, so the user need. So my need for a car is I need to be able to get my golf clubs in the back and go down to the golf club. Okay, so those of you who are a little bit quicker than me will have thought of at least 100 cars that fit that bill. Okay, if we still had our family, and my wife and I are on our second marriage, so we've got quite a lot of children between us. Okay, the little sports car isn't going to work. Okay, so our need is for something to take all of the children out in. So we're looking at a minibus. Well, okay, a large car anyway. A friend of mine needs a single-decker bus to take his lot out. We come from small families, so we're okay. But we need to work from those needs. So how do we do that? Would anyone here say they're an expert in any particular business area? Yeah? No? No, we're all experts in testing. It's what we know how to do. Okay, my domain expertise is testing. I happen to know a bit about general insurance. I happen to know a bit about the technical aspects of telecommunications. I know something about distribution. I know bits and pieces that I've picked up. I am not an expert. So where are our experts? They're our users. Okay? The best way to find out what you need to test is to get the users in. I'll dramatise this. So we have a nice user. Hello, Mr. User. Come in, take a seat. Very big, bright light. Tell me all you know. Okay? And they go, I don't know anything. Which is actually true. That they think they don't know anything. So what we tend to do is try and coach them through and say, okay, well, tell us where you start. Well, I get stuff comes in the post. Great, brilliant, that's just what I wanted. So we write it down on the board and we go through and they will tell us what the process is. And then we can ask them, okay, well, what the difference is. And they say, well, we can have credit card payments, we can have debit card payments, we can have gift vouchers. Okay, great, so we log all these. And then we go away, the professional testers go away and send these into test. Now, that's one of those a miracle happens here moments. You need the full course to find out exactly how to do it, which is available if you come and see me afterwards with a credit card. No, seriously, I'm not selling the course. But what we've done there is we've worked with the user, who is the expert in their domain, to find out what we need to test. Okay? And the second step of it is get them to execute it. Okay? Now imagine that they're replacing a system. What you need as a prerequisite is them to be trained on the new system. Same process, same thing, same outcome, different tool. Again, I did promise you it's not hard. Well, until you actually come and try and do it, but you've got this simple process. Get the users, get them to tell you what you need to do, then get them to execute it. Okay? It's a lot easier doing it that way than training them to be testers, because I'm sure everyone here has been testing for quite a while, and that's how you become an expert. They've probably been doing their job for quite a while, that's how they become an expert. It's also how they can give you the kind of tests you could never think of. Hands up everyone who works for a company. Okay? Yeah, everyone? Great. Hands up anyone who's got 2 jobs with the same company. No, 2 roles. Sorry, and you get 2 different pay slips. Yeah? Anyone got 3? Great, that's what I like to hear. That's exactly what I mean, is that if me working on payroll, okay, I've only ever worked for a company and been paid for one job. That's it, you know. If you work in government, and I'm working for a project with the States of Jersey government, one of their users came along and said, you know, it doesn't work. What do you mean? Well, I tried to put six jobs against one person, and it won't take them. It'll only do 5. Okay, now, again, this is one of those moments. 6? What on earth are they doing that requires 6 roles? And I'll tell you, okay, one of them is a part-time teaching assistant in a school. Okay, because it's a part-time teaching assistant, also has a job helping the children at lunchtime with their dinner. Okay, they also happen to be a bank nurse, so they work a couple of shifts in the hospital at the weekend. Okay, and then during the summer they're a lifeguard on the beach. Okay, and then, I can't remember what the 6th job was, but I was already gone at that point. And you can't believe that you would actually need to do that. Now, the point being, I don't think the guys who developed the software thought we're really clever. We've done it for 5 people. No one will ever use that. And along we come with our user, and it's only because they did that last week that they actually thought of that test. That's the power of having the users engaged. So, if you remember all the things that I said UAT isn't, we're going to look at some of the ways that UAT is. If you, as a user, think that the design might be a bit iffy, okay, or you want to know about it, engage early, go to the design reviews. Okay, if you, again, a nice real one, can't remember the exact project, but what happened was the developers had designed this form, which is multiple pages on a web screen. So you key in information on page 1, you key in information on page 2, key in information on page 3, key in information on page 4. Then what do you think you would do next? You would press OK, and away it goes. No. You have to go back to the first screen and press OK. Again, you know, I think it would be time to take Mr. Developer around the back of the building and introduce him to your baseball bat, okay? Because that's not a very good idea. Okay, but the point I would make is if one of the users had attended the design review, they'd have said, you can't do that, it's wrong, okay? You need to have the button on the back end. Take 2 seconds to fix it, okay? In actual fact, as far as I know, that bug is still there in the production system, and I saw it 10 years ago. Okay? Your users can also look at prototypes or wireframes in the case of web design, and they can give you some useful information about, well, not really a nice way of doing it, very quick to correct. Okay? They can also test the requirements. I stress test the requirements, not test to the requirements, because they can say, well, I don't know how you test that. okay? Or that's completely wrong. It doesn't work like that. Because they're giving you the benefit of their skill and experience. At this point, I'll digress for a second. If you work for a development team, supplying third-party software, you've got a real problem because you haven't got proper users. Okay? But there's no reason why you can't think slightly laterally and maybe get some people to help you, get people in and have these workshops. A workshop takes about half a day per business area. So it's not a huge investment, but it will give you, as a development team, an idea of how people are going to use your software or planning to use it. We need to plan properly. That's always good for a laugh. We need to make sure we've got the right test approach. Now, I tend to do my UAT as 3 cycles. Okay, first cycle is I get my testers, and we'll talk about the team in a second or two. I get my testers, professional testers, to run a basic set of tech tests that says, okay, functionally this holds together. Okay, you can log in, you can change your password, you can navigate through the screens, printing's connected, blah, 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 blah. Second one, now, this depends on the team structure, because normally project teams that I work with will have business SMEs assigned to the project team. So what we do is get the business SMEs to execute the user tests. So demonstrate that we can buy something, demonstrate that we can return goods, whatever it might be. Now, the difficult there is that they know the system by now, so they're not coming at it cold, okay? But again, it's a good layered test. The third and final is we get the real users, the people who are actually going to use it, who've never seen the system before, in to run the same business test. The reason we do that is to make sure that they're up to speed when it actually goes live. Now, what we tend to find is that this identifies training issues rather more than issues in the software. And those can be equally damaging to a project. As we found on one where we had people come in, sat them down, logged them on, and in this case we were using people ringing in, and we found that they've got no idea how to find the customer on the system because they've not been trained. Okay, now imagine that on day one. Okay, so that saved itself. You also need to consider risk-based testing techniques, and by that I don't mean we're going to take a risk and not do any testing. What we're going to do here is decide, okay, if you take Amazon, my Amazon example, what we can do is say, if we go onto their site, purchase 2 different items, pay for it by credit card, that's actually probably covered about 70 to 80% of Amazon's business. So if we could only run 1 test, that's not a bad one to do, and that's what I mean by risk-based testing. Let's not worry about a scenario that pays by 3 different methods. And finally, test environments are always a bit of a problem, and we need to test on a production replica. Okay, I don't mean full scale, full size, I mean something that looks like the production environment. Okay, because then your results are valid. Mindful of the fact that I've just been shown the card for 10 minutes, I thought it was a good idea to bring this one up. Allow sufficient time for your presentation, for your testing. Okay, all the time I get asked, Steve, how long does it take to do testing, UAT testing? Right, now I have a Pavlovian reaction to that, in which case, if anyone says to me, how long does it take to do UAT, I say 6 weeks minimum. Okay, I always say 6 weeks minimum. And the reason for that is not, I've no idea how many tests I'm going to run, but the point is, I need time to be able to fix problems and then be able to retest them. So 6 elapsed weeks is a really good starting point. If you twist my arm, maybe I'll do it in 4. Okay, but generally 6. Adding resource, yes, but I'm sure you've all heard this, but for a lady to have a baby, it takes 9 months. Okay, 9 women can't do it in a month. All right. If you apply more people to it, it gives you an increased management overhead, and you've got a bit of a problem. We need to engage with our business users as well, and here are the things that we can get them to do. The key bits here that I'd like to say are about defining the scenarios, and down here exploratory testing. And by exploratory testing, what I mean is not having a play. What I mean is you've just been given a test to buy something on Amazon with a specific objective. Okay, we try and keep it to the minimum. We don't tell them everything. We don't tell them every last keystroke, every last character. What we do is we ask them to make up customers, okay, because it's all adding value in terms of variation. Oddly, variation finds more bugs than actually doing stuff targeted. And what we just ask them to do is, you've just bought something. Think of another scenario similar to buying something that you think is particularly difficult, particularly awkward, you might have seen in the last couple of weeks or whatever. Just run that. You'd be amazed how that gives people confidence if it works. If it doesn't work, you found a cracking good defect. Like I said about the 6 jobs. I said we'd have a quick talk about resources as well. My team usually consists of a UAT manager who looks after the stuff you'd expect a test manager to do. So reporting, finding resources, sorting out problems and all the rest of it. And what I normally would have is 1 professional test analyst to 3, maybe 5 users. So what their job is to support the users doing the testing. So we don't want to train our users to be testers. So what we need to do is we need to help them by getting all the test data ready, making sure they've got the test scripts. If something goes wrong, helping them get around it if it's their problem. If not, logging the defect if it isn't. Okay, so we just get them from usually about 2-hour sessions, twice a day. They can come in, do their testing, off they go. We've taken little out of the business day, but what we have got is we've got all their expertise, and that's the bit that matters. We also need to be pragmatic. Okay? Everyone use Excel? Yeah? Yeah? Does anyone use the statistical functions in Excel? Okay. So we've got 2 people out of the entire audience who need to test that. The rest of us don't need to worry about it. Okay? In my case, that's great because I have absolutely no idea what they're on about. Okay? Anything beyond adding, well, actually anything beyond binary is a bit much for me, which is weird after a long career in computing. But you only need to test the bits that you worry about. Okay? So lots of third-party provided software comes with all sorts of functionality that you are not going to use. Don't waste your time testing it. And, as just to recap on what we're saying, don't do the supplier system test for them. It's not needed. Okay? If there are bugs in there, as long as we don't find them when we're running our business, does it matter? No? No. Because what we're doing is we're saying it's fit for purpose, not that there are no bugs in there. Okay? And don't let anyone blame you. Okay? And I've heard this on 2 presentations today. I'll reiterate it. Okay? We're testers. We do not put bugs in the software. Okay? We do not. Okay? Please don't let anyone try and dissuade you otherwise. Okay? We don't. We don't cause it to go wrong either. And for a program manager of my acquaintance, it's not my test team's fault your project is late. Okay? Trust me about it. Don't go into too much detail. You don't generally need to. Don't worry about boundary analysis and all the other stuff, which my wife talks about incessantly. She's a development test manager, so that stuff matters to her. I'm a cavalier user test manager. And don't worry about minor cosmetics. in the main. It might matter if you're doing a very high-profile website, the stuff doesn't look right. But if it's an internal-only app, who cares? To be honest, how many of us would notice if the fields didn't line up on an Amazon screen? Well, it's okay. I think you'll find the system testing's no, sorry. Seriously, it doesn't. Sometimes it matters, but in the main, it doesn't. Okay. And finally, you'll be pleased to hear, what we have to do, and to me, it's almost why we're here within UAT, is we need to tell it like it is to the stakeholders. Okay? We can have entry and exit criteria till till doomsday. Okay? What happens if at the end of testing we have 50 severity 2 defects and our exit criteria say no more than 2? Well, what usually happens is someone comes along, whizzes into the tool and changes them all to 3. Now, that's not very helpful. We're not telling it like it is, okay? What we need to do, and remember what I said about the guy who said, I'm going live even though I can't collect credit card payments. What we're saying here is we give a factual, unemotional view of the state of the system, the state of the systems that we're proposing to put into live to the stakeholders. They're the ones who are going to make the decision, okay? But it's our job to provide them with the best possible information. And if that means telling them that there are 52 defects, we tell them that, okay? If we're only able to execute successfully half the testing, we tell them. Then they can make the decision, not us. Okay? So, to me, testing is dead simple. We set a plan, we execute it, we report the results, and we go to the bug, which is about what I'm going to do. Thank you very much.
Any questions?
You can always catch me in the bar afterwards. Okay?